A routine bus ride in Woolwich turns into a scene of horror. A 14-year-old boy stabbed in broad daylight, leaving an 𝐬𝐮𝐫𝐿 was not just another name in the headlines. He was a 14-year-old with dreams, loved deeply by his family. Known for his infectious smile, 𝐬𝐮 attended a local school where he was recognized for his passion for football. Teachers described him as a bright student with a promising future, despite the challenges he faced. 𝐬𝐮 grew up in a tightly knit family, with his mother, Marie 𝐵𝐵𝐿, playing a central role in his life. Marie had fought tirelessly to protect her son from the dangers lurking in their community. From a young age, 𝐬𝐮 had been targeted by local gangs, who saw potential in recruiting him. Despite Marie's efforts to steer him away from this perilous path, the pull of the streets proved too strong. Then, there's the other side of this story, the suspects. The police quickly zeroed in on two teenagers, aged 15 and 16, who were later charged with 𝐬𝐮's murder. While their identities have been withheld due to their age, details began to emerge about their backgrounds. Both were known to local authorities, with histories of involvement in petty crimes and gang activity. What led these young individuals down such a dark path? Were they acting alone? Or was this a part of a larger, more sinister network? As the investigation deepened, questions began to swirl around the connection between 𝐬𝐮 and his attackers, and whether this tragedy was an isolated incident or a symptom of a much bigger problem. The attack on 𝐬𝐮 unfolded quickly, leaving little time for anyone to react. At around 2:28 p.m., the Route 472 double-decker bus made its usual journey along Woolwich Church Street. It was a typical afternoon commute, the bus filled with passengers, some heading home from work, others still lost in their thoughts. But on the upper deck, things took a dark turn. Witnesses recall the quiet before the storm. One passenger, sitting near the front of the upper deck, said they saw 𝐬𝐮 and two other boys engaged in a brief conversation. No one could have predicted what would happen next. Suddenly, a flurry of movement, a flash of a blade. Then, 𝐬𝐮 was stabbed. The bus erupted into chaos. Eyewitnesses describe a terrifying scene. A woman on the bus said, "It happened so quickly. I heard a scream and turned around. He was on the floor, blood pouring out." Another passenger, who didn't want to be named, recalled how the attackers fled the scene immediately after the incident, leaving 𝐬𝐮 bleeding and helpless. "They were gone in seconds. It was all so surreal. We didn't even know what to do," the witness said. The bus driver, shaken by the event, immediately contacted authorities. But by the time emergency services arrived, it was too late. The CCTV footage captured the crucial moments, showing 𝐬𝐮's final moments on the bus, but it only deepened the sense of helplessness. The attackers had already vanished into the streets of Woolwich. As police reviewed the footage, the gravity of the situation set in. A young boy stabbed in a public space, his life snuffed out in the blink of an eye. The image of the bus, the upper deck where the crime took place, now serves as a chilling reminder of the violence that can erupt in the most ordinary of places. In the aftermath, the community was left reeling. How could something so horrific unfold on a busy bus route, in broad daylight, in a neighborhood once considered safe? As the bus came to a stop, the horrific reality of what had just occurred began to settle over Woolwich. Within minutes, law enforcement arrived at the scene, their sirens cutting through the stillness of the afternoon. Police cordoned off the area, ushering pedestrians away as forensic teams moved in. The normally busy street now felt eerily quiet as investigators began the painstaking task of piecing together what had happened. The immediate response from the police was swift. They locked down the crime scene, securing the area around the bus and surrounding streets. The first priority was to ensure that no further danger was present, as officers began to gather information from the witnesses. In the chaos that followed the stabbing, the police quickly realized that key pieces of evidence might still be within reach. Clues that could help identify the attackers and the motive behind the attack. Forensic teams combed over every inch of the bus, collecting samples, including traces of blood and any items that could tie the suspects to the crime. But the challenges were clear. The busy nature of the location meant there were numerous potential distractions. Witnesses, while invaluable, were understandably shaken and hesitant, making it difficult to get clear statements. But every detail counted. CCTV footage from the bus was reviewed meticulously. The grainy images captured the attackers as they fled the scene, but there were still gaps. The faces were obscured, and with no immediate suspects, investigators relied on other forms of evidence: DNA, fingerprints, and even the clothing the attackers wore. The investigation faced additional hurdles. Woolwich, a tightly packed urban area, had many surveillance cameras, but they were not all aligned in a way that could capture the entire sequence of events. And while the police had gathered a strong initial lead, the lack of direct evidence made it hard to pinpoint exactly who was responsible for the crime. As forensic teams worked to gather as much evidence as possible, the community began to feel the tension rising. The attack had rattled people, and a sense of unease permeated the streets. Was the culprit still in the area? How could such a violent act occur with so many people around? With each passing hour, the pressure mounted on the authorities to solve the case and bring justice to 𝐾𝐿 and his family. In the wake of the tragedy, the community of Woolwich was left in shock. This was a neighborhood that had, until then, largely been untouched by such acts of violence. The stabbing of 𝐾𝐿 was a stark reminder of how quickly a place once considered safe could be transformed into a scene of horror. As news of the attack spread, people gathered in the streets and outside 𝐾𝐿's family home, trying to make sense of the senseless. Local leaders, visibly shaken, took to social media and television, urging calm but expressing their outrage. A local councillor, visibly emotional, spoke to the press, saying, "Woolwich is a community built on respect and care. We must now ask ourselves, what are we doing to protect our youth? We cannot stand by and allow this to continue." The mayor of Greenwich also expressed his condolences and promised full support for the investigation. The town hall became a space for mourners to gather, to light candles, and to share their grief. The outpouring of emotion was palpable as residents, regardless of their background, stood united in the face of tragedy. The emotional toll on 𝐾𝐿's family was devastating. His mother, Marie Bokassa, spoke to the press a few days later, her face etched with pain. Through tears, she said, "My son was a good boy. He had his life ahead of him. He didn't deserve this." Friends of 𝐾𝐿 also shared their heartbreak, describing him as a young man full of potential and promise. One friend, who had known him since primary school, remembered him as opportunity. Could there be more support for families in at-risk communities? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Your perspective could be part of the solution. If you found this story insightful and want to learn more about the issues facing our communities, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We bring you more true crime stories and in-depth analyses like this one, shedding light on the darker corners of our cities. Also, check out some of our related videos, one on the rise of youth gang violence in London, and another on a similar case involving public transport. These stories may offer more context and help us all understand the broader issue at hand. In conclusion, the stabbing of 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 remains a tragic and painful chapter for his family, the Woolwich community, and the City of London. While the investigation continues, there are still many unanswered questions. As we reflect on this heartbreaking event, we must ask ourselves, what steps can we take to protect our communities and prevent future tragedies like this one? How can we better support the youth in our cities to ensure that they are given opportunities to thrive and stay away from violence? As always, thank you for watching. Let's continue the conversation and push for meaningful change. We owe it to 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 and to all the young lives that could be saved.